And when he said that, he said, Feras, you're part of it. You're part of this layoff. My heart started to race. My stomach dropped. Every time I remember it, same emotions. Oh my goodness, what happened? No way. I'm a VP. I've worked so hard.
Welcome, badass entrepreneurs. It's time to hear the world's movers, shakers, and difference makers spill their secrets for unlimited success. So strap in, for Badass Entrepreneurs Only begins now. Greetings, badass entrepreneurs. I am thrilled today because my guest is Feras Alhlou. Now, if you do a wiki search for resilient entrepreneur, Feras is who you're going to find. Now, in 2003, he suffered a layoff from a career he loved, but rather than mope around the house in sweatpants, Feras jumped into entrepreneurship, completely restarted his life, and built a thriving career. Now, Feras is all about relentless learning, adaptation, and facing the highs and lows of business building with courage and unshakable determination. And that's why he scaled the shit out of his empire. He has built and scaled businesses to 7 and 8 figures, authored books, and in 2019, he sold his successful consultancy to a global media company. But more than just a journey of hard work and growth, Feras has a commitment to giving back. He continues to do so through helping his community, pro bono consulting, and mentoring over 150 new businesses. So let's get badass. Feras Alhlou, welcome to For Badass Entrepreneurs Only.
Coach Dan, thank you so much. You're too kind. You're too kind.
Well, hey, look, man, I just picked up what I learned about you on LinkedIn, on your website, anywhere else. Okay, so I want to go right into the center here. I want to know, you suffered your layoff, you've struggled with all kinds of different things, but in your 20-year entrepreneurial journey, what would you say was one of your most challenging moments, not just financially, but personally, something that like hit you in the heart? What was it, and what did you have to do, or who did you have to be to overcome it?
There's several, but let me start with one. I remember it was a Wednesday when the CEO walked into my office. I was a VP at the time, cutting edge high-tech company in Silicon Valley. We had raised $96 million as a management team. And he walked into my office and said, "Hey, Feras, you have a minute?" I said, "Sure." And then he closed the door. Now, that's not very common.
That's not great. Yeah.
So what did I do? What did I mess something up? And he said, "Hey, Feras, we have a layoff tomorrow." And I knew that something was about to happen, but I never thought, Coach, that I was going to be part of it because I was in charge of a big delivery to a telco, big telecom. And when he said that, he said, "Feras, you're part of it. You're part of this layoff." My heart started to race. My stomach dropped. Every time I remember it, same emotions. Oh my goodness, what happened? No way. I'm a VP. I've worked so hard. I mean, we used to I slept twice in that startup, in the office, twice.
Wow.
We used to put 14-hour a day, like work six days a week. So I just couldn't believe it. Then I went home early in the afternoon and my very supportive wife told her what happened. She said, "Okay, we'll figure it out." It took me a couple of days to really soak it in and I said, "You know what happened? Now I got to do something about it." So that was probably one of the most challenging, most difficult moments in my career. I had survived some previous layoffs in other companies, but when it's really hard. And even later as a manager, when unfortunately a couple times I had to lay off people, it is also very painful, whether you're on the receiving end or you're on, unfortunately, the delivery end at times.
And it's so interesting, Feras, because as human beings, we have one danger alarm system, right? Like our ego is designed to keep us alive. So whenever there is an effect of that ego, whenever something gets poked, whether it be like slipping on some ice or getting laid off, it's that same feeling of, uh-oh, I'm going to die, right? Or death is a potential. And so how did you navigate this, right? And this is really important because this show is all about people who take risks, who step in to do the things that most people don't do. So I really want you to help my audience by breaking down a little bit. You get home, your wife is supportive, and that's lovely. But then there's those quiet moments where it's just you and you.
Yes,
What
yes,
did you
same.
start to do? How did you start to process that so so it didn't become cataclysmic?
Yeah. The financial part, to be fully honest,
Yeah.
is very important. At the time, my wife and we had three children, and I was the breadwinner at the time.
Mhm.
She was getting back into the workforce. So that's very important. And I had an okay, in terms of severance, it wasn't like an amazing package, but it was an okay package.
Yeah.
But you're not sure what you're going to do. There's that part, the financial part. But I think we were
Mhm.
okay. We said we'll figure things out. I was a dishwasher when I was in college in Tulsa. I've done everything. So I said we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But the other part, I think the sort of the psychological aspect, the emotional aspect, I was a VP. Now I am unemployed. I
Mhm.
was busy working 12, 14 hours a day. Now, like, what do I do? The job market was very dry at the time. So am I going to be back to be like a manager? And I was a VP. Like those, and maybe
Yeah.
that's ego, maybe that's just survival, maybe that's
Sure,
just sort
sure.
of the status. My kids were young at the time, so I don't think that was an issue. But like, what do I tell my friends? This sense of inadequacy, all of those emotions are going through your mind.
Yeah.
And I think I tell people, if you're in sales, you're going to get rejections. If you're trying to get hired, it's hard, especially these days. So life is full of difficulties, and I think it's okay to go back home and sit down and maybe mourn for a day or two, and even
Yeah.
if whatever you pray, you cry, you
Mm.
do a mindfulness exercise, whatever works for you, do it. I think we need that spiritual aspect of things in our lives, and that for me
Mhm.
definitely that helped. But I think at the end of the day, like you can't control a lot of things that happen. We can't control a lot of things that happen to us, but we can control our reaction. I think this great late Stephen Covey said that in his
Yeah.
book, The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, is you have agency. And it's really hard when you're hit with either a layoff or maybe a rejection or you lose a customer or maybe a relationship at work or at home. When these issues, it's really hard at the moment, but I think you want to build that resilience muscle as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
as just a person in general, so that it's not about if I'm going to fall, I will fall, but I want to get back up and learn from what happened.
Mm.
Those are all those feelings where emotions going through my mind for that first few days after the layoff.
Thank you for being so honest and authentic. I mean, we didn't ramp up. We just went right into it. So I really admire that about you.
Thank you.
And yeah, yeah. So what I want to know is, how do you focus yourself on moving into the things that are difficult when you just want to feel better?
I think everyone reacts to things differently, right? So some of us might resort to unhealthy habits. I know I'm not judging here, but we all have our own shortcomings. Maybe it could be an addiction,
Yeah.
or maybe it could be drinking, or it could be
Right.
just just sitting in and on Netflix for like every 6 hours a night.
Hmm.
I think you have to really like life is full of challenges at every level. And I always say we have three children now; they're adult children. I say
Mm.
when they get older, the joy becomes larger and their problems become larger. But so I don't think life is meant to be perfect. I don't think life is not perfect. I don't think it's meant to be perfect. And all of those who have accomplished something worthwhile in life, whatever tradition, whatever in business and life, in civil rights, in any field, those
Yeah.
have to overcome challenges, have to put the time. Even if you want to run a half marathon, it requires you to get up every day, every other day, and run
Yeah.
and practice. So I think if you look at life from that perspective, that no, I'm not entitled to anything. I have to earn it.
Hmm.
And no one owes me anything. I got to leave this place better than I found it. I feel
Hmm.
if you look at life that way, it's a different perspective. And maybe I was just fortunate to have people in my life and books I've read where
Yeah.
that was important to them and they lived it that way. And maybe it rubbed off of me a little bit. I think that's really important. Like your perspective on life, on business, on relationships, on money.
Mm.
It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. So you just have to deal with it and make the best out of it and then make it better the next day.
Well, thank you for all of that. There's some things that I know about you because of what's around you. So when you said, I came home and my wife said, look, we're going to figure this out, like it's going to be okay. Somebody who's listening right now to go, wow, he's really lucky to have such a supportive life. Like, we're not so quick. Like it's not really just luck. What it is, you had to build a relationship with yourself to bring someone, to draw someone like that into your life. Right. And today there's so many people who want to blame other people, right? I am unhappy because of you. Like you are a toxic person, so you need to be gone, as opposed to saying, I wonder why I drew a toxic person into my life, right? And so it's clear to me that in one way or another, you did the internal work, and maybe it's how you grew up. Maybe it's the messages that you got growing up, but still, it's not a free space on the bingo card. You still had to do the work. And what do you think that you did, have done, and continue doing that continues to build that relationship with yourself, that positive relationship with yourself, Feras?
That's a deep one, coach. So,
It's the only kind I ask.
so when I did the Strength Finder test, one of those psychology tests, right? So they give you a list of 32 attributes, and they rank by the intensity of these attributes. So the top two for me were learning and achieving. So at one level, they're all very positive, but even the positive traits or attributes, they could actually have a negative side effect. So if you're always about achieving, getting stuff done, you can drive your team nuts, and sometimes you make bad decisions. Right. So even like, it's not, oh, great, he's great at learning and achieving, and that's why he's successful. You even have to check yourself on that. But that's a different point. But on learning, maybe, I don't know, I was fortunate to have that in me where I'm very open to different perspectives, even politically, and we're not going to get into politics, but let's say on the issue of abortion, I actually read to both sides. On the issue of guns, right? I subscribe to the newsletters from both sides of it. And you go across all the political issues. And I think that gives people, if you are a bit open-minded and you see the other people's perspective and you remove some of the propaganda and some of the polarization, people have real concerns when, right? And I think when you deal with people at work, when you're looking for a relationship, you mentioned my wife, right? We were actually still in college when we got married.
Wow.
So I think learning from others, learning from books, definitely, the people you surround yourself with. And then I got a bit more serious. Part of it because I started to hang out with people who were really serious about studying, and also about, like, a couple of them were like about to get married and they were still like right out of college. So it wasn't a big thing. So I think the people you surround yourself with at work, at home, at the gym, whatever it is, and the books you read, and maybe the mentors you have or the coaches that you have, that will definitely have a significant impact on, I think, where you end up going in life.
What I hear you saying is that you're constantly feeding yourself with the things that support yourself. Would that be fair?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn, in his book, The Startup of You, he said, think of yourself as a beta, like in beta, how in products you have like alpha and then the general availability. So think of yourself in a constant beta, like you have to reinvent yourself. Otherwise, because people say like, I remember I was part of a network group, and a good friend of mine, Neil, he said, we were like in our early 40s at the time. And he said, like, your income is going to just be capped when you're 45, 46. That's just the average in the US. And I was offended in a way. I mean, he's a friend. He didn't
I get it, right? But like, how dare you?
He and I were in the same age bracket, and I said, that's not motivating. Like, I still have a lot of years. And luckily, I did not fall into those statistics and worked hard to be better than those statistics. I think it was Patrick Bet-David, he said in one of his videos, he said, most people do that, and he showed the numbers because they don't reinvent themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
So, intellectually, emotionally, physically, you got to be trying new things. You got to be learning new things. Keep your mind active as you get older. It's really important. But even for the young folks who are listening, learn skills, learn new things. That's what's going to really help you on the long run. So maybe that bug of learning, I got early on in my heart, that helped a lot.
And look, there's some things that we haven't even covered yet. You're a 3rd-degree black belt in Aikido, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You're on the board of directors for the Silicon Valley chapter of the American Red Cross, right? There's a lot that you're doing to enhance your mind, your body, your contribution. And these aren't easy things. These aren't things that you can just put a half effort into. And so I'm bringing this up because it is endemic of successful people. I've studied successful people all of my professional career. And the thing that is consistent is exactly what you're doing, continually challenging themselves and continually giving back. It's interesting to me because you don't lead with that, right? Like I had to bring this up. And it means that's not something that it occurs to you. Oh, here's this cool thing that I'm doing. It is endemic in who you are. And I know that you had to shape yourself in that way.
Yeah, right. And, there's what I call the 3 silent killers of success, right? Sleep, stress, and productivity. Now, badass entrepreneurs never get enough sleep. We all have way too much stress, and that puts our productivity in the crapper. I found something that beats the silent killers. It's a technology that lives on your phone. Now, I know this sounds crazy, but it's sound waves that put your brain into states of relaxation and focus. Now, when I first heard about this, I just thought it was bullshit, right? But then I heard that this company, they're called Nucalm, Nucalm. Nucalm is being used by the Army, by U.S. Special Forces, the FBI, professional football teams, pilots, surgeons are using Nucalm instead of anesthesia. And what's his name? Tony Robbins just jumped on board with Nucalm, right? So I thought, at the very least, I got to try this. So I downloaded the app, I put it on my phone, and it just sounds like music. But oh my God, after one session, I was on fire. 20 minutes of Nucalm was like 2 cups of coffee. And then on the other side, I use Nucalm at night, and it puts me out like a light. I wake up in the morning, shot out of a cannon. Now, if you want a free week of Nucalm, it's super simple. Just text the word CALM, CALM, to this number, 213-409-8366. 213-409-8366, and text the word CALM, CALM. Get more sleep, feel less stress, and blow your productivity out of the water. Just text CALM, CALM, to this number, 213-409-8366, and get a free week of Nucalm. Free. Okay, so sorry for going off like this. I'm just super fired up about it. Let's get back into this.
Here's someone who is listening right now, and they're thinking, oh God, do I have to become a black belt in Aikido? Do I have to give up all my time? I go, what do they do? How do they begin, Feras, on this journey?
I'm asking these tough questions, Coach.
I know.
I mean, again, everyone is different, and people go through, I think when we're younger, we judge people, maybe without admitting that we do.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay to be judgmental. But I think whether you are a Gen Z or you're a millennial, maybe mid-career or late career, we're living longer now. We want to do more. There's more to life than money, and there's more to life than status. And I think a lot of us, it's important. I'm a capitalist at heart. I want to make the next buck more than anyone else. Trust me.
Sure.
At the same time, though, I think sharing with others is really important. Now, someone could be really struggling today, and they started a business and they can't close their first deal, and they have no time, and they're working 70 hours a week. I hear you. Maybe this is not the best time for you to make a financial contribution or be on a board of a nonprofit. But I can tell you, my friend, there are probably people who are suffering more than you are. Maybe just a few zip codes away from where you are, right? So if you can find it in you to help, maybe on your way, on your hike, pick up a phone, help an entrepreneur who doesn't know as much as you do. Help someone who maybe you're good in math, maybe do some tutoring. I mean, if you get that gene in you or that bug in you early on,
right,
especially for the younger crowd, and give from what you have. Let's say you're social media whiz, just go to a nonprofit and help them with their ugly website and make sure they have more followers, right? And their content strategy. So I think helping others in whichever way we can is really important. And then if you're an entrepreneur and you're building your own business, like we had a commitment in our business that we will always help nonprofits. Initially, we did not. Money was very tight for many years, but we would give from our time. We were doing online marketing, we were doing web design services, just general marketing consulting. A lot of nonprofits would benefit from that. And then when we started to be profitable, we decided to do, we said 1 to 2% of our total revenue would go to nonprofits. So 1 to 2% of revenue, not profit. And we were at 7 figures and later at 8 figures, right? In the other business. And we would go at the end of the year and say, hey, to our team members, like, give me a list of nonprofits you'd like to support. And at times we would ask our customers instead of sending a Christmas gift. So we'd get a list of nonprofits and then donate on behalf of our people because we were profitable at that time, right?
Yes.
And we would share with our people. Kind of went a little bit offline here on a tangent, but I think that concept of sharing, of helping others, especially in our society today where there's a lot of polarization. It's an election year, so it's going to get uglier probably, even at family dinners. But find a way to help others, to be a bit more compassionate about, not work hard, work 60, 70, 80 hours a week, yes, but there's always time, I think, for relationships and helping others.
Gandhi said that if everyone knew the joy of service, they would never stop.
Yes, sir.
And I find that to be so true. The giving I have seen great people do has just been astounding. And the giving I do is just so joyful. And there is definite ROI in it. There's a definite ROI in giving. It's not a transactional ROI, but it's spiritual ROI. It is heartfelt ROI. So we've spent most of the show talking about you, about how you are. I want to spend some time about what you are. Like, let's talk about your business. What is it that you do, Feras?
Sure. So this is our 7th venture. When I say we, because I've always had business partners. I've never done a solo thing.
Good.
I always find people who can complement your weaknesses. So just find someone who can help you in those areas. So what we're doing today is actively in 2 things. One, we have an analytics company out of Dubai, and now we're also growing into the US. It's called eSense. So we help mostly larger companies make sense of their data and make better decisions in terms of marketing. And we're a Google certified partner there. And then I'm more of an advisor, board level advisor for that business. Now, when I'm spending 12, 13, 14 hours a day is on startup with Feras, and that's spelled like my first name, Feras. So we have a YouTube channel and we have a website where we provide content to help entrepreneurs either start a business, they have an idea, they haven't started, or if they've started and they're struggling, we want them to help them build, grow, scale the business to 7 and 8 figures. So the early stage entrepreneurs is our sweet spot where we're helping these folks, again, get a business off the ground or grow and build this business and not repeat the mistakes I made in the last 10 years. That's my mission.
That's my favorite part of coaching, Feras. I'll tell you, when someone is talking to me about, here's how I'm going to approach a prospect, I'm like, whoa, hold on, right? Because you can just see them with a cinder block on the gas pedal headed for the cliff. And doesn't that feel good when you can head that off in the past and put somebody on a really nice path? What are the kinds of people, or what are the kinds of businesses that you like working with in your business in Startup with Feras?
Sure. Most of my entrepreneurial life or journey was in services and consulting, although the first startup was in product. So we're focusing on services and consulting businesses. I think there's a lot of resources if you're doing a product or if you're in tech. Obviously, I'm in Silicon Valley. But I believe like early stage people who kind of want to go, let's say if 10 is 7 or 8 figures, we're trying to help those who are like trying to go from 0 to 1. Like, how do I get my first 10 clients? How do I just get a system in place? How do I, like, we talked a lot about mindset, like resilience, dealing with the unknowns, dealing with ambiguity, hiring, like early on as a business owner. I think hiring is probably the most important decision you'll make, like your first hire, second hire, or third hire. So
just a second, let's talk about that a little bit, because this is really important. I have a company where we get virtual assistants for businesses, right? So I am hiring all the time and I've gotten pretty good at it. But for somebody who has never hired anybody, and I was there, right? I have hired some terrible people. And so, look, I mean, it's like you, right? The result of that failure ultimately brought the love of my life into my life. It propelled me to what I'm doing now. Like I'd be miserable in my stupid marketing company if I were still doing that. Thank God for that, right? But you don't have to do what I did, right? And that's essentially what you're saying. You don't have to screw up at the level that I did to be successful. And so in terms of hiring, what is some basic level advice you would give to someone who is looking at hiring someone to avoid those pitfalls?
Sure. A 1 hour live stream on 10 tips for hiring, and all
Oh,
those 10
great.
tips are the mistakes I made. So I think always start with the requirements. What is it that you're looking for? So don't just go on to Chat GPT or Gemini or just search for, like, give me a job description for a salesperson.
Yeah.
I was at my friend, an orthodontist, actually, and on my way, I said, hey, I'm looking for a salesperson. So I said, doctor, happy to help you. Like, what do you need for? He said, I'm looking for a salesperson. Okay. You want someone to kind of do cold calling? You want someone to nurture the leads you have? You want someone to sell to businesses? You probably want someone who has experience in the medical and maybe the dentistry. So a lot of people, a lot of business owners, they haven't gone through that. So write down a very detailed job description that describes your company, your needs, what you expect of the person. So I think that's number one. Because it's easy to blame the other person. Like, we hired this person, like we hired a salesperson who was doing it great, let's say at Google, selling like cloud services, B2B. You bring him to a small business, there are no processes, there's no CRM, there's no marketing material. So you can't expect that superstar to come in and perform at the same level if he doesn't have, or she doesn't have the sort of the infrastructure that they're used to having in another company. So I think setting the right expectations about what you want from them, and then also explaining to them that your environment, the systems that you have, and then obviously have some metrics, like what's realistic. And then I think that the compensation side of things has to be I think the incentives have to be aligned. Don't go too cheap, when it comes to hiring. Always look for A people. It's hard, but initially you're not looking to hire tens of people. So A people will bring on A people. They'll bring on A suppliers. They'll bring on A partners. And then B people will bring on C people and C partners and C suppliers. This is like your first few hires are going to be, I think, they're almost like founders in a way. So you have to be really, really careful in finding someone who's going to help you grow that business. And, like I always say, like, hire fast, don't skip the vetting, and then fire fast. And after you've been fair and you've explained to them and you help them. And so it is a challenging thing. Hiring is a very challenging, but it is one of the most important decisions, I think. It's all about people.
I really love that. And you said something earlier that it really touched me, which is the essence of it is you can't expect too much from someone. Like, they're just going to come in and work perfectly. And the other thing is, you have a big responsibility in this. Like, if you've been a solopreneur, you probably have something in your head that says, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. Right?
Yep.
And what that means is, what I've learned painfully that it means is, I have to become an expert at training people, right? It's not their responsibility to just figure it out. It's my responsibility. So if they're not doing something right, it's not that I have to do it myself or find someone else. It's that I have to get a lot better at training people. And now, how do you train yourself at training people?
I think one of the most limiting factor to growth for solopreneurs, for entrepreneurs, is exactly what you described. Like, I have it here. I do all my accounting here. I know each customer, when to invoice them, how to collect. I'm going to get that information and enter their credit card information in my system. It's all here. And that is limiting your growth. You have to be able to take what has worked for you and in your mind and turn it into a process, into a system. A simple Google sheet that you pass on to your bookkeeper, they'll charge you a couple $100 a month. That will save you the headache, at least for me. So you can think about the business, so you can grow the business, so you can be out there selling. So I think starting is never too early to set up systems. You can use Basecamp or Asana or Notion to have checklists. So as you do, we have one of those black belt principles that we call at Startup with Feras. It's learn, do, then seek. So learn about whatever, accounting or sales, CRM, or how to do a paid marketing campaign. Learn it, document it, and then find someone else to help you with it. So I think sooner than later, do your checklist. Get a task management system. have templates for your proposals, have templates for your
Mm-hmm.
delivery. Then when you have someone come in, make sure you allocate time to go over all of that process that you have, and make sure you dedicate time, especially early on, and especially if you're hiring a millennial or a Gen Zer, you got to give them a lot of attention. And if they're remote, you got to give more attention.
Yeah.
So it is an investment, but you're planting that seed that could
Yes.
grow and do amazing things for you. Yeah.
Everything that we do in Dan Gordon Enterprise is system-based. And I'm fortunate because I'm a systems guy. I have always been a procedural person, and I love that stuff. And there's so many systems now online. There's so many platforms that allow you to do that. And our credo is that, look, if I get hit by a bus, the business can continue to run because it is system-based. And like last kind of big question here, for someone who is starting up, one of the things that you say is entrepreneurship is 5 times harder than you think. And I think you're being unusually fair with that, right? I'd go to 8 to 10, but I think you have an unusual ability to make hard things easier for people. So what is something that a startup person can do to begin to kind of ease that difficulty?
Jokes aside, Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, he said, entrepreneurship is a million times harder. So he said, if I knew everything that was going to be ahead of me, I probably would not start.
Yeah.
Because it's almost, you're sort of like trying to do borderline the impossible, right? So you have to convince yourself as an entrepreneur that I can do it, that I'll find ways. I have the grit, I have the resilience, I have the work ethics. So I think for entrepreneurs, I always say it's hard. It's not for everyone, but for those of us who want to get on this entrepreneurial journey,
Yeah.
you don't have to figure everything out on your own. You have amazing people like Coach Dan. You have people who have been to where you want to go. So seek their advice.
Yeah.
They're not going to do everything for you. Their journey is different than yours, but they'll show you common obstacles. They'll show you the way they dealt with hiring or accounting, or the way they dealt with Fortune 500. So I think just like when you go to the gym, and no matter how buff you are, that you could, there's a coach. Just like anything else, you want to learn a new recipe, you go on YouTube. So I think just be careful. There's just a lot of resources. Today, when I started, there weren't a whole lot of resources. That was our challenge. Today, I think there's just too many resources.
I know.
So for the listeners, I think look for someone who has been to where you want to go. I think that's probably, you'll get the best advice from those type of people, especially if they know you and they care. I think you'll get the most, the optimal, probably the best advice that will make you get to the end point with less scars, less tears, less bloodshed.
Yeah. That's so well said. And just that consistent recognition, it's going to be scary. It's going to be uncomfortable. Joseph Campbell said, the treasure you seek is in the cave you fear to enter. And you love it because that's what you've done. You've done that consistently. I mean, I would say that the greatest gift you ever got was being laid off.
Yeah.
And
in hindsight, of course.
Okay. Yeah. Right. But it doesn't feel that way then. My fiance, Rosalind, and I have a saying, and that is that nothing is done to us. Everything is done for us. So we don't know why it has been done for us. We're trying to sell our house, and somebody smashed into our front fence, right?
Oh, no.
So we're having to rebuild it. And of course, they didn't have insurance, right? So we're having to pay for it. And we really want to feel like this is being done to us, right? Like, oh, look at this thing that happened to us. But we know at some point, we're going to be kicking back somewhere going, whoa, we were really lucky that happened. We just don't know why.
Sometimes, yeah.
And so keeping that, I can hear somebody who's listening right now saying, Coach Dan, shut up and have Feras tell us how I get in touch with him.
No.
Please tell us that.
I think some notes. I like that quote about the cave.
Yeah.
The treasure in the cave. Now, we have startup with Feras.com, Feras spelled Feras. At our website, there's a daily newsletter. Happy to have you as a subscriber. So we publish weekly videos, and we have a lot of also daily shorts. And also we have a live stream every week where we answer the questions that we get from the community. So yeah, subscribe, like it. Hopefully you like the content there. So we'd love to hear from the community. Yeah.
And just to be clear, that is Startup with Feras, StartUpWithFeras. You can also find him on Facebook, Startup Feras, StartUpFeras. On LinkedIn, it is his name, Feras Alhlou, ALHLOU. Feras, thank you for everything that you've shared and for your insight, for going deep quickly. It's so rare that someone gets to connect with someone like you. And that's the joy of this kind of work, this kind of podcast, is that someone gets an instant connection with someone, but they can connect with you. Just go to startupwithferas.com, book an appointment with Feras, and let him help you.
Coach Dan, thank you so much. Thanks again for the kind words. And I learned a lot in this podcast and from the other things I listened on from the other guests. So keep up the good work. And if you're ever in the Bay Area, please let me know. I'd love to meet up in person over a meal.
Thanks, brother.
Hey, one last thing. If you're feeling stuck in business life, wherever, download my book, Jumping the Gap, Kill Your Story and Take Action. In this book, you'll see how the stories that you tell yourself are stopping yourself from living your greatest life. Just text the word GAP, G-A-P, to this number, 213-409-8366. 213-409-8366, and text the word GAP. It's a short read, it's fun, it's easy, and if you hate reading like I do, you can grab the audiobook. It's at that same link. Just text the word GAP, G-A-P, to 213-409-8366. You'll love it. All right, that's it. Go out there and be badass today.